journal journey. Before we get into the 300 more writing prompts, I'm going to throw another plug out to Flintlocked, Issue 1. It's a comic book that I co-wrote and co-created that's available on Amazon and to purchase as a paperback or Kindle. It's a pirate comic book, so if anyone has any interest in pirates, it'd be awesome if you supported an independent comic book. Would really appreciate it. But let's jump right in. What brings out your nerdy side? Yeah, so there's lots of things that I think I am nerdy about. I could sit here and I can name all the media type things I'm nerdy about. I always say that like movies, TV, comic books, wrestling, those are like the things that I probably know too much about certain things, whether it's television shows or movies, um, wrestling. I find it fascinating, usually when it comes to certain movies. Almost any movie I see that isn't like bad, I love reading about the behind the scenes. I love reading all the facts about how it got greenlit, how long it's been in pre-production, how long it took, were there any problems that happened during production, things like that. Whether it's super successful movies or super unsuccessful, very bad movies. I love hearing all about the ups and downs. For a little while with Entertainment Buffet, pre-COVID, produced a show called Brews and Bad Movies, where we would watch bad movies and make fun of them. And one of the best things I loved about doing that show was watching the bad movies and laughing at them, but also learning and getting nerdy all about like what happened to make them that bad. Sometimes it's just bad because the writers or the directors or people behind it were just not firing on all cylinders. I'll say that to not be mean, but like I find it so fascinating the business end, like what happened. Like for example, the Street Fighter adaptation with Jean-Claude Van Damme. I researched and read and watched videos all about the behind the scenes for that movie, how it was rushed to make a December release. They had to make the whole movie in like less than a year. How Raul Julia was dying of cancer, and had to shift the entire shooting schedule around his treatments. And Jean-Claude Van Damme was on coke for most of it. Like, that's just one movie as an example that, like, I don't just love the content itself, but I love diving into how it all came to be. And that same goes for television shows, um, or even pro wrestling. Like pro wrestling, I love learning about the business aspect of it, learning all about the business and how why Vince McMahon and World Wrestling Entertainment became successful by trying to pretty much monopolize the business. And then in turn, with AEW, the new All Elite Wrestling promotion, how that spawned from one successful independent show to getting a deal with investors and becoming its own company and brand, and then getting a deal with TNT. That's all just been within the last year and a half to 2 years. So like I love the products, but I also love learning about behind the products. So like what I've come to learn in the last few years is I have a real nerdiness for the business side. Like sure, I love learning about, say Star Wars or like Game of Thrones. I do enjoy learning about like the lore and like remembering the history. I'm a big nerd for remembering the years in which movies came out. It's just something that sticks in my head, usually because I visit the IMDb page, and that's at the top of the thing is that, Shawshank Redemption came out in 1994, and I'll just remember that. So I think a lot of things that I get nerdy about. Some of them also are sparked from, they say that we're very nostalgic people my age, 90s kids, we really are. We really latch onto things from our childhood, whether it's like cartoons or kid shows or things like that. I totally am a nerd for it. I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but also those things. I loved learning all about um, how those came to be. How I didn't know for the longest time that Ninja Turtles came from a comic book that was an independently started comic book that spawned into this huge media franchise, or that Power Rangers was just a Japanese ripoff that they used footage and put American like English dubs. So like I love learning all about those things, those shows like The Toys That Made Us, or the new video game one like High Scores, documentaries like that where they dive into something to where you can learn behind the scenes. I get very nerdy about. So I love, like I said, facts and lure and behind the scenes things. That's where I get really nerdy, especially I've come to realize how much I am a nerd for like the business side. Um, yeah, it's so I think it really what brings out my nerdy side is like something that really allows me to dive deep into not only the content but also what happened to cause the content to be where it is. So last thing I'll probably cover is when I first saw The Room. I like to say I have two stages in my life, kind of like BCAD. Um, I lived 25 years BR before I saw The Room, and now I'm currently about 2 or 3 AR after I saw The Room because that movie was so bonkersly bad, and I then listened to the audiobook of The Disaster Artist by Greg, who was in The Room, and saw The Disaster Artist, the movie adaptation, and reading and hearing all about the behind the scenes, just like I fell into a just deep rabbit hole. And I think that's one thing that people also talk about when it comes to like nerdiness, like what causes you to like just fall down a rabbit hole of where like that's all you want to talk about, that's what you like looking up, you like. I love telling people about the things I learn about because I find them fascinating. um, so sometimes that's content, sometimes it's behind the content, but that's what really brings out my nerdy side is when I can that's like the research I like doing. I never liked doing research for like papers in school because it was usually topics I didn't care about. When it's a topic I care about, I could read about it for hours, I could watch videos about it, I could talk about it with other people to yeah, just till until they get annoyed and they don't want to talk about it anymore. But yeah, what brings out your nerdy side? What are you nerdy about? And let me know. We'll be back tomorrow with another video.